get in.
I was a young kid then, you see, as a teenager. And I belonged to a Zionist youth group. And we were all summoned to go to that rally. Well, it was a very agitated crowd. Many Yiddish-speaking, a few English-speaking. And Rabbi Wise mounted an appeal to the Jewish people to do something to save Jewish honor.
Most of the important, well-established Jews were very angry at him, said this was sensationalism, and that if anything happened to the Jews in Germany, the blood of the Jews would be on his head.
Dr. Stephen S. Wise, rabbi of the Free Synagogue and a national leader of liberal thought, speaks in behalf of the Jews of the United States.
This is not a Jewish meeting. This is the conscience of America making itself felt.
The conscience of Nazi Germany made itself felt 5 days later. Across the Reich, Hitler's troops shut down Jewish-owned businesses for 24 hours. Within days, American Jews marched calling for the boycott of all German exports. Jews throughout Europe echoed that call, so did Jews everywhere. But a group of Zionists at the same time was quietly negotiating an agreement with the Nazis to allow the immigration of German Jews and the transfer of their assets to Palestine. That deal, reported in August 1933, was the transfer agreement. Palestine, sparsely settled by Jews at the time, was radically changed as a result.
I lived in Palestine from 1933 to 1936, and we saw every week transports of German Jews coming to settle in Palestine. Many new professions were introduced by them into the country, and they played a leading role in making Palestine then a more advanced and progressive country.
Israel is really what it is because of the foundation laid by the Eastern European group, and then the lift toward an educated and well-organized government that came with the immigration of the German Jewish group.
German Jewish settlement of Palestine was, for a time, official Nazi policy. These photos of Jewish life in Palestine, along with a lengthy text, appeared in 1934 in the Berlin paper Der Angriff. The publisher, Hitler's propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels. A Nazi Visits Palestine was the title of the multi-part series. A medal was struck by Goebbels in commemoration. On one side, the swastika. On the other, the Star of David. Hitler demanded one concession for the transfer agreement, that the call for a boycott of the Reich, raised by Jews here and elsewhere, be rejected by the Zionists. The Zionists made that concession. And so, while Nazis were marching in Germany, and while Jews were marching here, diplomacy was running a more important story. In the Mediterranean, where the dream of a nation-state for Jewish people came a step closer to reality. The story in this book some will find hard to accept.
I still feel the hurt, but after I read it, I said, I'm all with you. Go ahead and write it.
Because everything was exactly what happened, and that's the truth, and you cannot deny it. And the truth must prevail.
And I'm not worried by the people who will find the book in bad taste. The smart people, the intelligent people, the people who went through will understand.
The author is torn between two profound feelings. That he has to be for a Jewish state, and that the silence which his parents have kept, well, he has to retaliate against that silence, and he takes it out on others.
It was a quest. It took me around the world. Financially, it depleted me. Emotionally, it drained me. And as far as my being a Jewish person and understanding my Jewish identity and my relationship to Israel and the Holocaust, it has fulfilled me. It has given me identity.
That he tries to exorcise his own demons by creating ghosts to visit the nights of others is really a very personal drama. And my only hope is that he will not damage the people, the state, and the brethren and sisters whom he proclaims to cherish.
Did you find what you wanted to know?
Yes, I know what happened, and I know why.
The transfer agreement will be available shortly. Macmillan is the publisher. Deborah?
Thanks, Rich. Really interesting.
We're watching the Echo on TV, and thank you so much, Edwin Black, for that book, by the way. It was a great book. It is a great book. And what do you think about it? Because I have an idea, like the whole time I was thinking about something, but go ahead,
well,
Sandish.
Thank you for sharing that clip.
You're welcome.
One thing that I always wondered while reading this book is, why wasn't I taught this in school? Because I did further research, and it turned out that in order to get a lot of the Jews in Germany and Poland and Europe into these camps, lo and behold, it was Jewish or Zionist officers in the military. There were many Jewish Zionist generals, hundreds, maybe thousands in the military that persuaded their own brethren to go into the camps. And that's something that is a little beyond this book, but it explains how they were able to achieve that once they had this agreement.
Exactly. And in other words, it was the process of the problem, reaction, and solution. They could never say to a Jew who lived in an advanced country like Germany and the rest of the Europe to go to a desert and live for the rest of his life with a sandstorm and other, natural disaster. But once they realize, hey, our life is in danger, they would come back to you and say, hey, where was that the desert that you were talking about? So I was thinking about this the whole time when I was watching the movie, because then you see the Jewish businesses were closed, but they never touched the Zionist paper and the Zionist businesses over there in Germany. And as a matter of fact,
and I think you called it Strabenlaub, which was the Nazi campaign to basically put what they called Aryan people into the Slavic territory. So Zionism created that model by taking the Ashkenazis and putting them into Palestine.
Yeah, exactly. And I heard that one of the top Zionists said, even if the 10,000, I mean not 10,000, 100,000 more or 10 million more Jews would die, it's worth saving the Israel or creating the Israel, something like that.
I think that was Herzl.
Yeah. So, as you can see, there is this connection. And then the next topic would be, that brings us to the next topic.
Well, Jennifer, do you have any?
Oh, yeah,
have you seen or heard this information before about the transfer agreement?
I haven't. I've heard of it, but I'm not very familiar with it.
Does it surprise you?
It does. It's not. It's again things that are new to me in a lot of ways. I suppose I wasn't really educated in school in the background of World War II, just the horrible things that happened and so forth.
Yeah, and it's you hear about all these awful things. You wonder, how in the world do you get to a point like that? And this, I mean, to get to something that awful, you have to have some pretty awful and deceitful things going on.
Yeah.
And this, thanks to Mr. Black, he's documented.
Exactly.
And who knows exactly what else is out there.
Exactly.
As the one gentleman said, he lived there from 33 to 37, and thousands of German Jews were coming in.
Yeah.
And that was before, I don't know when the camp started, but We do know, obviously, from Goebbels' visit that